My name is Kimberly Price. I am the founder and CEO of Apex Innovations. And on the day my father, Brian, married his second wife, Mary, at a vineyard in Napa so expensive, it felt like a movie set. I heard him point at me during his toast. He raised his glass to 100 guests, friends, and family, and said, "That one. She just got lucky." He then pulled his new stepdaughter, Kayla, into a tight hug. She's 25, all blush and confidence. "This one." He beamed. "This is the real smart one." I wish I could tell you that after 48 years, after building a billion-dollar company from nothing, that those words just rolled off me. But they didn't. They landed sharp. And they stayed. Have you ever felt like the outsider in your own family? Even when you're the one trying the hardest. Share your story in the comments below. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. That's never been my way. The boardroom taught me that the person who stays the quietest often holds the real power. But I'd been practicing that discipline long before I ever signed an incorporation paper. I just set my champagne flute down on the white linen tablecloth, the glass making no sound. I watched them. My father, Brian, 72 years old, and puffed up with secondhand pride. Soaking in the applause from the crowd, my new stepmother, Mary, smiling like she'd just closed a major deal, and Kayla, 25, flushed with expensive wine and unearned confidence, giggling as if she'd just been crowned queen. I stood there, surrounded by oak barrels and floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking the valley, and I felt nothing. The anger wasn't hot this time. It was clinical. It was precise. Because I was the only person at that wedding who knew the truth. My silence wasn't weakness. It was a shield. I was protecting him, the man who had just publicly dismissed me from a secret that would have ruined this perfect, expensive day. It all started 4 weeks ago. I was in my office on the 40th floor. The city lights blurring into constellations below. The glass walls were dark, reflecting the rows of data on my monitor. My head of security, Charles, walked in. Now, Charles isn't just an employee. His name is on the original incorporation papers from 1998. He was with me when Apex Innovations was just 3 rented servers in a dusty Palo Alto garage. He's the one who drove me to the hospital when I collapsed from exhaustion in 2004. Running on nothing but caffeine and code for 72 hours straight. He's the one who sat with me in that same garage, eating cold pizza in silence. When my first big investor pulled out and I thought I was finished, Charles is the silent witness to every single sacrifice I ever made to build my life. I didn't knock. He just stood in the doorway, holding a thin manila file. He has this way of standing perfectly still that makes the entire world feel like it's holding its breath. "Kim," he said. He only calls me Kim when it's bad. "We have a problem. It's the expense reports from the new marketing initiative." I looked up from the screen, my eyes burning. "Don't tell me." "It's Kayla," he said, his voice perfectly flat. "It's not a mistake. Kim, it's systematic, and it's big." He laid the file on my glass desk. I stared at it. I didn't want to open it. I knew that opening that file would be the beginning of the end. It was a door I couldn't close, but I did. And that's when this whole perfect wedding, this entire family charade, started to burn. I opened the file. It wasn't complicated. It was just theft. Clear. Simple. Undeniable. Kayla. In her entry-level marketing role, a role I created for her. A favor to my father had been filing fake invoices, phantom vendors, consulting fees for companies that didn't exist, all paid out to an account she controlled. The total wasn't a rounding error. It wasn't an accident. It was $50,000. Charles didn't say, "What should we do?" He just stood there, the silent witness, waiting for my decision. "I'll handle it," I said. My voice was low. "Thank you, Charles. That's all." He nodded once and left, closing the door softly behind him. I sat there in the dark, the city lights reflected on the spreadsheet, the numbers glowing like a fire. The next day, I called Kayla to a conference room. Not my office. A neutral space, cold glass, black leather chairs. She walked in smiling, holding a latte, probably assuming it was a casual check-in. "Hey, Kim," she said, pulling out a chair. "What's up?" I didn't sit. I slid the file across the table. Just the summary page. One sheet of paper with her name and a number, $50,000. Her smile didn't just fade, it collapsed. The color drained from her face. The latte cup trembled in her hand. I don't, I said. My voice was flat. "Don't, Lee. I don't have time for it. I have the wire transfer records. I have the IP addresses. I have everything. The only question I have is why." She crumpled. The tears came instantly. Just as I knew they would. It was a performance. I didn't mean to. She sobbed. It was a mistake. I got in over my head. I was going to pay it back. I swear. I just watched her. This wasn't family. This was an employee who had committed a felony. You know the protocol. "Kayla," I said, "this is immediate termination. And I am legally obligated to report this. This is grand larceny." "No," she wailed. "Please. Kim. Please. It'll destroy me. It'll destroy your father. The wedding. Mary. Please. You can't." She was right about one thing. It would destroy my father. The humiliation of his real smart daughter being exposed as a common thief. It would shatter him. And as much as he'd hurt me, the thought of inflicting that public shame, I couldn't. I took a deep breath. This wasn't compassion. It was a business decision. A very, very messy one. "Here is the offer," I said, my voice like ice. "It's the only one you will get. You will transfer the full $50,000 back into the company account by 9 a.m. Monday. Your resignation will be on my desk at the same time. You will cite personal reasons. In exchange, I will not file a police report. And I will not prosecute." Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with relief. "Yes, of course. Thank you. Kim, thank you. I'm not doing this for you." I cut her off. "I'm doing this for my father. To spare him the embarrassment. Now get out of my sight." She practically ran from the room. And now, standing here at this ridiculous, opulent wedding, listening to the string quartet, I was reflecting on that decision, my act of mercy, my attempt to keep the family peace, and my father had just repaid that mercy by calling me lucky, and her smart. The irony was so thick I could barely breathe. I felt a hand on my arm. Smelling of expensive cologne and champagne, I turned. It was my father, Brian, beaming, and right next to him, smiling confidently, was Kayla. "Kimberly," my father said, his voice booming with the kind of forced cheer he used after a few drinks. He draped his arm heavily over my shoulder. "There you are." Kayla was standing right beside him, holding a new glass of champagne. The tear-streaked, terrified girl from the conference room was gone. This Kayla was composed, her cheeks flushed, a small, knowing smirk on her lips. She met my gaze, and I swear I saw a flicker of triumph in her eyes. "We need to talk. Kim," Brian continued, his voice dropping to what he thought was a conspiratorial whisper. Though half the table could hear, "Kayla, here. She's got a fantastic head on her shoulders. A real mind for business." I just stared. I didn't say a word. "She's got this. This brilliant idea for a new app." He slurred slightly, gesturing vaguely. "But you know how it is. You need capital to get started. You need a little seed money." I felt my spine turn to ice. I knew. even before he said the number. What was coming? So, he said, patting my arm. I told her you'd help out. We're family. After all, you owe us that much. With all your effing luck. He finally landed on the word. I looked at Kayla. She leaned in. Her perfume so strong it was suffocating. It's true. Kim, she said, her voice sweet and confident. It's a sure thing. I just need about $50,000. Just to get it off the ground. She smiled. A bright, practiced smile. Think of it as a wedding gift. For Dad. $50,000. It hung in the air. Thick and toxic. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel betrayed. What I felt was clarity. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't an awkward request. This was the con. They weren't just demanding money. They were demanding the exact amount she had stolen. This was their brilliant move to make it all go away. If I gave her $50,000, how could I ever claim she stole it? It would become a family loan. A gift. A messy misunderstanding. The theft would be erased, and I would be the one who paid for it. Twice, they thought they had me. They thought my love for my father, my desire to avoid a scene, had put me in a box. My father was still smiling at me, expectant. Well, your sister just asked you a question. Sister, I repeated, the word tasting like ash. Brian laughed, thinking I was joking. Yeah, sister, now. Are you going to help her out or not? Don't be selfish. I kept my eyes on Kayla. Her smile was starting to look brittle. Slowly, deliberately, I reached into my evening bag. Brian's face lit up. Atta girl, see? Kayla, I told you she'd come through. He probably thought I was grabbing a checkbook. Or maybe my phone to make an instant transfer. I pulled out my phone. The black, polished glass felt cool and solid in my hand. I unlocked the screen. I didn't open my banking app. I opened my contacts. There we go, Brian boomed, slapping me hard on the back. Now you're thinking like a family. Just wire it right over. Kim, easy peasy. He was still laughing when I pressed the call button. I didn't look at him. I didn't look at Kayla. I just stared at the glowing screen of my phone. I found the name Charles. I tapped the speakerphone icon. The small green light was bright in the dim lighting of the reception. One ring. A voice answered. Crisp and professional. Unmistakable. Charles speaking. Brian's laugh died in his throat. Kayla's smile didn't just fade, it shattered. Charles, I said, my voice perfectly level. It's Kimberly. Yes. Ma'am, is everything all right at the event? He was calm. But I knew he was alert. He was always alert. There's been a change of plans, I said. My eyes finally lifted from the phone and locked onto Kayla. Her face was turning a sickly, pale white. The arrangement we discussed, I continued, the one concerning Kayla Price. My father's head snapped toward me. Arrangement? What arrangement, Kimberly? What is this? Cancel it, I said. The silence that followed wasn't just silence. It was a vacuum. The string quartet. The laughter from the bar. The clinking of glasses. It all disappeared. Kayla let out a small, strangled gasp. Kim. No. She whispered. Don't. Please. Brian's face darkened. Cancel what, Kimberly? What are you doing? You're making a scene. I ignored them both. I spoke clearly, my voice cutting through the warm Napa air like a shard of glass. Charles, I said, proceed with criminal prosecution immediately. For the $50,000 embezzlement, my stepmother, Mary, let out a sound like she'd been punched. My father looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Embezzlement, he sputtered. Turning on Kayla, what the hell is she talking about? Kayla was trembling so violently, she dropped her champagne flute. It shattered on the stone patio. She's lying, she screamed, her voice cracking. I don't know what she's talking about, Dad. She's lying. And Charles, I said, my voice drowning out her panic. Send a security detail to her apartment. Now. Retrieve all company property. Laptop. Key cards. Phone. Everything. She is terminated. Effective immediately. Understood. Ma'am. Charles' voice replied. Calm as ever. I'll have the team moving in 10 minutes. The police report will be filed within the hour. Thank you. Charles. I ended the call and slipped the phone back into my evening bag. I finally looked up and took in the scene. My father. His face a mask of purple rage and total confusion. My stepmother. White as a sheet, holding onto the back of a chair to keep from falling. And Kayla. She wasn't just crying. She was broken. The confidence. The smirk. The arrogance. All of it gone. Replaced by the raw, ugly terror of a cornered animal. You? My father whispered, his voice shaking with a fury I'd never seen. You did this. At my wedding? I looked past him, my gaze settling on Kayla as she sobbed. You really thought I wouldn't notice? I asked. My voice keyed. You thought you could con me for the exact same amount you stole. You thought that was smart. I turned back to my father. You called me lucky. And you called her smart. You were half right. She was smart enough to steal $50,000 at... I let that hang in the air for a beat. And I was smart enough to catch her. It was... Shouse. The word isn't strong enough. It was a complete implosion. Mary, my new stepmother, let out a high, thin wail and sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. Kayla was on the ground. The shattered glass of her champagne flew around her, sobbing hysterically. No. It's not true. He's lying. She's lying. My father's face went from that deep, furious purple to a blotchy, terrified white. The bravado, the arrogance, it all evaporated in a single second. He lunged at me and grabbed my arm. His grip was surprisingly strong, his fingers digging into my skin. Kimberly, stop this, he hissed, his voice cracking. Stop it right now. What have you done? You're ruining her. You're ruining my wedding. I looked down at his hand on my arm. Then I looked back up at his face. His eyes were wide, panicked. He wasn't angry anymore. He was terrified. Let go of my arm. Brian, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through Kayla's sobbing. No, he yelled. And now people were definitely staring. The string quartet had stopped playing. The entire reception was watching us. You call that man back. You tell him it was a mistake, a misunderstanding. You can't do this to her. She's just a kid. You're destroying this family. Kayla was looking up from the floor, her makeup streaming down her face. Please. Kim, she begged. I'll pay it back. I promise. Don't send me to jail. Please. Family, I said, looking at my father. This is what you call family? I pulled my arm out of his grip. It was easy. All his strength was gone. I didn't do this. I said, my voice still quiet. I didn't do any of this. I gestured to Kayla, who was now a whimpering mess on the stone patio. She did. She chose to steal $50,000. I looked at Mary, who was rocking back and forth, muttering, "Oh my God. Oh my God." And then I looked at my father. You did this. I said, you stood up there, in front of all these people, and you called me lucky. You dismissed every late night, every risk, every sacrifice I ever made, and you held her up as the smart one, the one who was better than me. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. You were right about one thing, I said, picking up my evening bag from the table. She is smart. She was smart enough to try and con me for the exact amount she stole. Right in front of you. I straightened my dress. But you know what I am? I'm the one who was smart enough to see it. And I'm the only one in this entire family who was strong enough to do something about it. The person you humiliated was the only person trying to save you from this exact moment. I turned my back on him. On all of them. I didn't run. I walked. I walked steadily. My heels clicking on the stone, past the silent tables, past the shocked faces of the guests, past the string quartet that looked frozen in time. I walked right out of the reception, into the cool Napa night air, leaving them behind in the wreckage of the truth. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Clinical, legal, and swift. Kayla was prosecuted, faced with an ironclad case of embezzlement. She pleaded guilty to avoid jail time. She agreed to a plea deal, full restitution of the $50,000, 5 years of felony probation, and 2,000 hours of community service. My father and Mary had to sell the house. They had just moved into the one with the new pool to pay for her restitution and legal fees. The wedding was over. The marriage began in ruin. I got a single email from Brian, my father. It came 3 weeks later, from an email address I didn't recognize. The subject line just said Kimberly. The message was 3 sentences. I'm sorry. I was wrong about everything. I don't know how to fix it. I read it. I sat there in my office, the sun rising over the city, and I thought about it. I thought about the decades of being called lucky, of being the bastard, the one who was never quite good enough. And I realized he was right. He didn't know how to fix it. And I knew it wasn't my job to teach him. I didn't reply. I just hit delete. My peace didn't come from his apology. It came from my own understanding. I finally understood why he was the way he was. He was a man who needed to feel superior. He couldn't stand my success because it was a mirror to his own failures. My achievements didn't make him proud, they made him feel small. He championed Kayla because her failures made him feel strong. Her weakness, her recklessness, her need. It made him feel like a father, like a protector. She was the golden child, not because she was bright, but because she was flawed in a way he understood. And I was the scapegoat because my success was something he could never comprehend or equal. He didn't hate me. He hated that he needed me. That realization set me free. A month later, the full $50,000 was wired back into the Apex corporate account. I saw the notification pop up on my screen. Restitution. I looked at the number, $50,000. The price of their lies. I called my CFO. That $50,000 we just recovered from the Kayla Price case. I said, I don't want it. Let's move it to a new cost center. Ma'am, what kind of center? I want to start a new fund. I said, looking out at the city I'd helped build. The Apex Foundation Scholarship. We'll give it to young women from difficult backgrounds. Women trying to get into STEM. Women who weren't born lucky and have to build their own way. My family tried to define me by their bitterness, by their envy, by the small, petty box they wanted to put me in. Instead, I chose to define myself by the legacy I was building. If this story touched you, share it. If you've ever been made to feel small, if you've ever been dismissed or underestimated, don't let those words stick. Your value is not determined by their insults. Your value is something you build every single day. With your own 2 hands. Stand in your truth. Build your own worth. And never, ever let them see you fall.